Welcome back to Michigan in Motion, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. I'm Tiffany Dowling.
And I'm Taylor Kelsaw, and we get to talk to some fascinating people throughout the state of Michigan and across the country, even the world sometimes. But today we have someone who's based right here in Lansing who has a great business that I got to watch commercials with Phil Dinny doing. We talked about earlier this year.
Wow. So we're talking with Nikali Luke. He's the owner of Simplified Tax and Accounting. How are you today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Wonderful.
Nikolai, tell us a little bit about your background and how long Simplified has been around.
Simplified's been here in the Lansing area for a little over 66 years, so a long-spanning business. Myself personally, I've been here for about 8 years now, and really just in Lansing and the surrounding areas as well.
So are you a CPA? Do you have that background, or you like to run businesses?
No, I am a CPA.
Okay.
I actually do the work, as I like to refer to it. I'm a CPA for the same, about 10 years now. Here at Simplified, we have 5 full-time CPAs on staff, so we get into a wide variety of, things that are very straightforward, all the way up to things that are very complex.
Nikolai, when tax season is not up and roaring, what do you guys work on?
At Simplified, we do a combination of, in addition to taxes, of course, we do payroll and accounting. And then a lot of times during the non-tax season, we kind of dive into some of the issues that we just don't have time for during tax season. So during a tax appointment, we might find an issue with inventory or point of sale or something that just doesn't feel right. And then really we use those summer months to kind of tackle those things. I always think, what am I going to do this summer? And then always something comes up, and I'm definitely kept very busy.
Now, how often do you have to get more education? Because I'm assuming I own a business, so I have to do my fair share of taxes. Does the tax code change enough to where you have to get some certain amount of education every year, or does it not really change that much and you can just, read a couple of Cliff's Notes versions from our beautiful government and move on?
Great question. In order to keep up your CPA license, you're required in Michigan to have 40 hours of continuing education each year. So, in addition to something that we should do, we have to do it in order to keep our license. But the good thing, I guess, from my business standpoint, is that tax laws do dramatically change. And so it really isn't, although I get biweekly updates, to kind of keep up a little bit freshness, there's definitely 25, 30 hours a year that I spend in classroom doing tax update style training. Accounting doesn't dramatically change, but the tax law does, and that's honestly what most people are more concerned about. We do the accounting in order to get to the taxes.
Well, and what that probably means is that for your clients, especially your accounting clients, are you giving them recommendations on how they should be formulating their accounting systems to more get in line with how their taxes will go?
Absolutely. And that's what I try to encourage my business clients to keep up on their accounting during the year. Sometimes they'll come in January, we'll do all the accounting for the year just to do the tax work. The problem is then, there's really no value to it. We're trying to get to a point where we're looking at the numbers throughout the year so that way they can make better business decisions with that versus just wait until things are already done and there's nothing they can do about it. I definitely agree with you that, usually, and a lot of times it'll happen after a tax meeting that they got a higher tax bill than they expected, and so that usually will translate and then, okay, I don't want to just wait till next year to tackle this. Why don't we talk monthly, quarterly, or at least semi-annually to see how things are going?
I have a question, Nikolai. What is tax season like for Simplified? I mean, are you guys just overwhelmed?
I was just talking to my wife recently, and I told her that I cannot do more than I did this last year. So we definitely are at a overwhelmed point, during that time of the year. We bring on an extra about 25 to 30 staff just during those, really 3 solid months in order to kind of handle the extra burden of tax season. And don't take it I'm complaining. I'm definitely not. I'm glad to be busy. But it's definitely, the nice thing, it's coming, And so you prepare for it, and you know there's that target on the calendar. You know, for businesses, it's March 15th, and then for most individuals, it's that April 15th magic day we're looking for.
Well, I think that's interesting. How do you accommodate 15 to 20 people? Do you have the space in your facility, or is it something that you have to rent space? How does that work for you?
Great question. Really, we have, here at our main office in Lansing, we have full-time staff all year long. That extra 25 to 30 people we're bringing in a lot of times are at some of our satellite offices, so we're in surrounding areas. We're in DeWitt and Charlotte and Williamston and Owasso, so really we do have the office space that we utilize all year long, but we use it very little. Some of our offices, we still keep them open during non-tax season, but we're using one office versus three offices, so we really, we have the space year round because we want to be in that same location, but we're definitely not utilizing it like we want to, except for those, 3 to 3.5 months.
Nikolai, we have to take a break here. Can you join us after that break?
I definitely can.
Fantastic. Stand by. You're listening to Michigan in Motion, brought to you on the MichiganBusinessNetwork.com. We'll be back with our guest right after this.
Welcome back to Michigan in Motion, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. I'm Tiffany Dowling.
I'm Taylor Kelsaw, and this segment, the second portion of our interview with Nikali Luke, who's works in the owner of Simplified Tax.
He makes it sound so nice.
He does.
Tax season. Gosh, I mean, who wouldn't want to be hanging out with Nikolai during tax season?
Tricks of the trade.
Everybody loves taxes, that's for sure.
Well, I'm not one of those people, but you seem like a really nice guy.
I agree.
I try.
Yeah.
I try to make it as less painful as possible.
I would appreciate that.
Indeed.
I'm interested. We're talking a little bit about services and, launching services and how you do marketing for service-type businesses. For Simplified, you said you've been there for 8 years. How do you do your marketing of your service?
Majority of our, advertising and marketing dollars are spent during tax season. If I had to quickly guess, it would be around 85% are spent in about 4 months.
Wow.
And we do, and we always have done a heavy amount of radio advertising. And in the last couple of years, kind of moved into TV as well. And in the last year and a half, really trying to do more online, social media, Google Analytics, those types to drive people to our website, just trying to reach a different market.
Mm-hmm. So my question is, I'm just solely curious. During the off season, when you're looking at finding businesses to do long-term work for, is that a market that you want to go after? Because it would seem to me like when you're doing marketing through the tax season, when you're super hyper busy, are you getting like the one and gun type people?
It is. During tax season, most of our clients we touch them one time a year. We do the tax appointment, we do the taxes, and we set them up maybe with estimated payments, but we won't see them again until next year. So in the non-tax season, we are doing much more business-to-business work, and that's what we're hoping to do. I will say it's a harder market, I feel, to get at. And a lot of that is because, a lot of people don't want to make a change unless something bad happens. Most of my new clients are brand new businesses that I get from referrals. And that's, a good thing is that, other service providers are taking good care of their clients, in this market where we kind of value everyone a little bit more than maybe we used to, and trying to provide that level of service to keep them. So it is, we're, absolutely interested in developing new payroll clients, new accounting clients, but, honestly, it is a harder market to reach. And we struggle advertising-wise because of that. What I mean by marketing people, we say, we've done this before, and we're just discouraged because we don't always see as big of a response when we're doing marketing to business non-tax season sales.
Sure. Nikolai, in fact, what kind of tips do you have for individuals and families and also for businesses out there that are thinking about their next year of taxes and anything that they should be concentrating on right now?
I think so. There's two things. From a Michigan standpoint, they changed from an individual standpoint, both business and individual. Sorry, they changed the way that we're being taxed on a lot of things. That we lost the Michigan business tax, and now the corporate income tax is in, and so you can't just assume the same type of tax coming this year that you had in the past. So you really need to, as a business, take a closer look at that so you're not surprised and don't get penalties for not maybe paying as much as you should. On the individual side, they also made big changes, especially with retirement income and the Michigan property tax credit. So, most clients, unless something dramatic changes, they kind of can expect the same thing year to year. Really, I can't say that for almost any client that, again, is retired and gets some income from retirement, or that relies on that Michigan property tax credit, which we know with $1,200, it's really limited this year. And so I found, especially during my meetings in March and April, we were talking, about 2012 dramatically more than we normally would because those things are changing. So I could talk, a very long time about the changes that are coming, but I guess it's more just to be aware that if you usually float close to that break even, you may want to take a closer look at what that number may be for 2012 so you're prepared.
I'm curious, how do people find out? It's not like the government's taking out, billboards and saying, hey, we're making some big changes, figure this stuff out. How are people who maybe are just kind of, they wait to the last minute? I don't know who those people are. I don't know who would procrastinate on their taxes. Right. But, I just feel like, we don't, as people pay enough attention to some of these things, and then we get really hung out to dry there at the end, and it really is hurtful to a lot of people.
I agree, and I have a fear for that for this year for people because there is so much of a difference from last year to this year. And really, you hope that you count on your tax professional if you are meeting with them to think forward for you, because and if you really, I think you should be allowed to kind of rely on them because it's not something you deal with on a day-to-day basis. So if, when you met and did your 11 taxes, if your tax person didn't have at least a little bit of a conversation about what to expect for 12, you should be a little concerned. Yeah. And if you do them yourself, that is also another thing, is that you don't have kind of that person that may look at it a little closer and through a different scope, and you may just be surprised this one year. And after the 1 year, you're back in the swing of things because then everything will be consistent again in theory.
Nikolai, I have to cut you off here. Sorry, but I want you to put out your website, how our listeners can find out more about Simplified Tax.
If you go to ChooseSimplified.com, there's tax tips and contact information and all sorts of things. Again, that's ChooseSimplified.com.
Fabulous.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, you're listening to Michigan in Motion, brought to you here on the MichiganBusinessNetwork.com. We'll be back right after this.